TV is so exciting at the moment. You know, I've seen some brilliant things on television recently, and I think, you know, it allows obviously a length of story and for you to develop characters over a long period. And now there's so much amazing talent working in television that I'm very open to that too. I'm very intuitive about the way I make choices. I don't really have a game plan. I just respond. We'll see whatever lands first. The film has had quite a different response in each place that we've shown it. I mean, there's an element to it that's very culturally specific. It's about England at a very English moment before the 60s kicked in, when that kind of Edwardian, uptight world was predominant, and young people had to kind of fit into that. So some of that's very culturally specific, but then there's an element of the story that's really universal, which is about a couple's first night together, the beginning of a marriage. Those things transcend national and cultural boundaries. So there's an element of it that I think speaks across the world to everyone. The movie is saying that love is complicated and that in a way, a sense of how we feel is really determined by the time and place in which we live. That notions of love, whilst there are things that in the idea of love that are universal, our ability to express love and our ability to communicate with one another is so determined by what is seen as culturally acceptable, how we are conditioned. And for me, you know, one of the amazing things about this film is because he's set the story just before the 60s kicked in. So it's a moment before a huge kind of cultural change. You kind of think that if these people were born, say, 4 years later, their whole experience of love and how they experience one another would be different. Because once the 60s kicked in, there was the whole idea of alternative relationships, of communicating your feelings, became a norm in the West. And that was, they were in a very different world to that. So that's one of the ideas about love that's in the film. And then the next task was finding actors who could really show their inner lives, but remain true to the period, which is not showing your feelings. And Saoirse Ronan, I'd seen in Brooklyn. I mean, I think she's a great actor, and she has that ability that to kind of communicate every inner thought. And then we found Billy Howell, who has a similar quality. So actually, the casting was key in that, allowing feeling to come through on screen and finding actors have chemistry together and chemistry with the camera. I've worked on stage for about 30 years, and there are a lot of crossovers. And actually, if you look now in the UK at the number of film directors that come from theatre, from Sam Mendes, Phyllida Lloyd, you know, Danny Boyle, they all started in theatre. And I think the reason why that's the case is that in theatre we get the chance to really hone our skills with actors. Because you have long rehearsals over a long period of time, you develop a language for working with actors. And of course, actors are the centre of movies. So whilst there's still a lot to learn about the camera and using cameras to tell stories, there's a natural relationship between the two. I'd done these 3 very ambitious films for the BBC Shakespeare history plays, so I had a bit of practice. But I must say I loved the transition. I really enjoy making films. And partly it's because I know that I always have the theatre to go back to. It's not a do or die situation for me. I like that variety.